You mentioned marketing, Dave, and you've worn every hat there is to wear in the company. And so tell us about like why you kind of gravitate toward marketing, and that's what you like to focus on.
Well, I started off knocking doors when I was 12 years old, and I mean, when I say knocking doors by myself, I was by myself knocking doors, just hustling all over a pair of shoes. I fucking hated knocking doors, man. I did it and I hated it, especially because I started off cutting grass. So I would like grab my lawnmower in a gallon of two of gas, and I would go in the neighborhood because we were poor, and so. And I wanted some really nice shoes to go back to school with. And my mother sat me down and said, "Hey, you can have anything you want in this world. You know what I mean? The things that you do around the house, there's people that live in this neighborhood that will pay you to do it." So I went to work. I grabbed the lawnmower and I went out. But I just fucking hated it, man. I hated going up there, knocking on the door, don't know who's there, don't I'm intruding. Now we understand it's a pattern interrupt, and so I just when I started the roofing business, I just didn't want to be a door knocker, and so I didn't want to run that type of operation. So I started leaning into branding, marketing. How can I get that? We know that people have the need. So now how can I attract those people to me? So I have really warm appointments that I can go to. I did fairly decent with it, and it's always been something I'm passionate about. When the phone was ringing, when I was getting the leads, that was something that I was very passionate about. I knew if I could get the leads that I could close them, and it just kind of like progressed, right? My brother gifted me a website, and I'll never forget. He called me. My birthday's June 11th, and he called me and he said, "Yo, man, I got you a birthday present. You need to go to your email." And back then, you had to call me to get me to check my email, right? So I go and check my email, and it's a domain. It's roof-crafters.com because Roof Crafters was taken. Some guy in Texas had it. So he went out and got the domain. I was like, "What the fuck am I going to do with this?" You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? What do you want me to do with this? And so he had a cool little like Tonka truck on it, and it had a backhoe, and it was flashing under construction. The website was under construction, and the dump truck would back up, and it would load dirt in the back, and it was like the website was being built. I was like, "What is this going to do for me?" And it's just from there. I kept leveling up. I kept leveling that up, and leaned into that. So yeah, I became really, honestly, I really became passionate about it. And I had lulls, Joe. I would go and I would produce so many fucking leads I couldn't run them, and I'll be like, "Holy shit, how am I going to run all these leads?" And not just myself, a sales team. And I would leave that alone, and then the leads would fall off, and then I wouldn't be focusing on the marketing. I wouldn't be focusing on positioning, or focusing on branding. I would just be focusing on operations and production, doing the jobs. So there was ups and downs in that cycle, right? And now
Yeah.
it was ups and downs in that cycle, and then I realized how much, and it took like having Nikki come into the business and me being able to solely focus on marketing and not focus. I haven't sold in 5 years. My last year in sales, I did $4.3 million myself.
Wow.
I haven't sold in 5 years now, right? And so I'm not in sales anymore. I'm not focusing in sales. I got out of the sales box. I went over to production and got all the production stuff straight, and I got out of the production box, and now I'm over here in the marketing box of the company. And I'm just consulting. Like we have a marketing team.
Okay, cool. A few things I want to unpack there. Yeah, you mentioned or you alluded to like that revenue roller coaster where, especially with small companies where the owner's doing a lot, wearing a lot of hats. All right, I'm gonna go drum up business, do some marketing, generate leads, got a whole bunch. Now I gotta work on producing and ignore marketing altogether. And then you get done building those jobs and you're like, oh shit, my pipeline's dried up. I gotta go back to marketing again. So that's so common. And one of the challenges in marketing in the contracting industry is just simply being consistent, right? Like you see a lot of companies in Q1, hitting their marketing hard. They get all excited. They have the money. They have the time to do some marketing. And then, March, April, May hits, and then they stop marketing, and they don't have that consistency that they need to actually grow their business. Is that's something that you experienced?
I think that's a cycle. I see that pattern as well, and I think that, and I can speak from experience, because what happens is I market, I build the campaigns, The leads start coming in, we're running them, and then when we have an overfill, when we start getting more than the capacity that we can run, that creates anxiety. I have to go out and find new people, and now I'm building jobs, and there's a lot of shit going on when that happens, right? Especially when you're producing, millions of dollars. There's a lot going on, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just not focus on the marketing. I didn't turn it off. I just stopped putting the energy into the marketing and didn't stay consistent. And so that's that cycle, and you break off the consistency, and then of course the leads start dropping off and all that. It doesn't mean the revenue goes down necessarily, because we, as in the contracting space, if your production's dialed in, you're working at a 40-50% referral, right? So we stay at that year over year, and so it's not necessarily the revenue goes down, but that's the place, Joe, that if we stayed consistent and we had the rest of the systems and processes in place, we can add sales reps to run the leads, and we can add production, and we can keep moving it further down further. We can scale at that point. But if you don't, you get in a state of chaos. That's that state where you reach that state of chaos, and now you can't focus on what we need to focus on.